right. I think I'm going to say that every time I start streaming. All right. Nervous tick. So let's go to page 2. So this is your first time joining, which is just the third real stream that I've done on Twitch. I'm doing a project called Streamed of Consciousness, and what I'm doing is Stream of Consciousness comics, and doing it page by page as we go. I don't really know where the story's going. This is featuring two of my characters, Audrey and Dad. I call the series Slackmatic Comics. It's kind of The Simpsons meets DuckTales meets Rick and Morty. That's my elevator pitch. So far in this story, Audrey and Dad are standing at the entrance of a mysterious, what looks like a door in a cliff. We're just kind of just starting right off the bat there. And Dad has decided it would be a good idea to go in there. And in this last panel of page 2, he was coming up with all these ridiculous reasons that this would be a good idea. So I've been thinking about this since yesterday's stream. I haven't. That's kind of the whole thing. Is like I'm not really writing anything down or like planning too far ahead. I'm really just thinking like one page at a time. But I do want to be able to kind of just jump right into these and get to work. So I'm 99% sure I know where this page is going. So we've got page 3 loaded up. Let's bring over my template for Slackmatic. We're going to drag that in. Bam, there it is. So what I'm thinking is, since Dad has just come up with all of these ridiculous reasons why they should go into this scary cave, I was thinking about doing this this wide panel up here at the top, and I screwed that up. This wide panel up here at the top with Audrey over here in the far right corner, and it's just going to be a word balloon of just dots and her look of just absolute shock at how stupid her dad continues to be. And then in this second tier, I'm going to have this second panel here. Dad is going to take that silence as Audrey thinking this is a great idea because he's an idiot. And he's going to say, I knew you would love that idea. And then in this third panel, he's going to be grabbing her by the hand, and they're going to be running into the door. And then this fourth panel, I think what I want to do is have it showing the doorway here in the middle, and it really dark, and you won't really see the characters because you've already known they've run in there, and them saying something like, wow, it's really dark in here, or something stupid. But then in the foreground, have some sort of creature from behind that I can then throw in later into the story. This is all just we're just flying by the seat of my pants to see see what we can make happen later on. All right, so let's get the dialogue done first. I haven't really talked about this, but I think when you're making I was wrong. A good pro tip for making comics: you get your layout ready, and after your layout, you start placing your dialogue and your word balloons. Um, I'm always shocked, and I know everybody's way of working is different, but I'm always shocked when people do all the artwork and then do the lettering last. And I think you see that more in assembly line comic making, something from Marvel and DC, where you've got a writer and a penciler and an inker and a colorist and a letterer. And generally, the like now with digital lettering, they do that last. Um, what is happening here? How did I get onto circular text? There we go. That's weird. Uh, but if you're doing it that way, you might not have room, or it might cover up something important if you've got a group of people working before the letterer that really aren't taking that into consideration. All right, so Dad needs to say something. I'm trying to figure out this dialogue here. So I thought you would think. Let's see. Let's go back to page 2. Let me read this again. You know what? Let's have him saying, "You look convinced." Let's bold that up. I realized yesterday while I was watching playback from the stream from yesterday that you guys only see the main Clip Studio window, which really is still ideal. Um, but there are other windows that pop up while I'm working, like font windows and stuff like that, where I can make things bold or italicized. And on your guys' end, it looks like my cursor's just clicking something that's not there. So, if you're wondering, that's what it is. In Clip Studio with the lettering, like I've got everything set to a default of like a 20 size for the font, and that's where everything defaults. But then you can, if you want to make them bigger, like I just did on this right here, you can just move it anywhere and it'll change it. And especially when there's like a big expression like this, uh, I like to do that. And I don't necessarily keep it uniform from the other lettering because I wanted to, like, if I were hand lettering this, um, I would get much more expressive. All right, so last panel. In this one, we're going to have, like I said, it's going to be an entrance. It's going to show the entrance. It's going to be really dark. We have something in the foreground. Trying to think. Maybe I do hold off on dialogue for this panel. That is something I'll definitely have room for after my whole diatribe on always do all your dialogue first. But I'm doing everything, so I know exactly where it's gonna go and what we're gonna have room for. All right, so let's get balloons going on these. That looks wonky. That's why I like this curved balloon. I can adjust all the edges. See, let's see what this looks like up here in the corner. Yeah, that'll look good. I don't know if it looks good, but it'll work. All right. All right. And that part is good to go for now. Unless I decide to add another bit of dialogue in that fourth panel, which I think I will. I just want to think about it a little bit more. Okay, so let's start penciling. So Audrey, she just wants to have a. I want to have a look on her of just absolute. I don't know if disgust is the right word. Disgust, shock. Mm, shrink this down. I don't know if that's the right mouth. When I was thinking about this yesterday, I was thinking about having Audrey having some sort of retort to Dad's reasoning for wanting to go in through this doorway, which involved pirate's treasure and alien bases and finding an old cookie tin with a genie in it where they could wish for pirate's treasure. Why am I having a hard time saying treasure? Pirate's treasure in an alien base. And I was thinking about her having some sort of retort. And then I thought, I think she would just stare at him in disbelief. Which, if you've been following my stories for a while, um, I'm not sure she should be too surprised from anything that he says or the situations they get into. But I think that's part of the charm of my stories. I hope. I have a very kind of sitcom logic. Every story is kind of its own new thing. There are some recurring characters, but they're few and far between. Kind of starting from scratch every story. All right, and there's an effect in Clip Studio that I'm gonna put behind her. It's like a gloom stream effect I've used before. It's one of the few kind of canned effects that I'll use in Clip Studio. All right, so let's have Dad. He's saying you look convinced. They're going to be right next to each other for this. Definitely going to have to shrink this down. Again with my ear placements. I swear to God. I swear. I think I've maybe like held back a little bit, but through the years I've realized that Dad's beard has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think I've been dropping it back just a tad, but it's definitely still pretty bushy. When I started the series, it was definitely a little smaller. I also drew necks a lot longer. I don't know why. Necks are like, they always look weird to me. And the other thing that's gotten bigger on Dad is his belly. definitely made him have more of a dad bod. Probably because I've gotten more of a dad bod, but I think his is a little more than mine. We're gonna go with it is. Let's keep. I want this pretty angled. Which, if I'm gonna angle it, that means I'm gonna bring that belly. There we go. Shoulders are probably right here. I want his arms, or his hands, kind of on his hips. We're gonna get. I'm always saying we because I feel like I've got people watching me, and you guys are involved. I'm gonna get real cartoony with this. I know I've said in, I can't remember which video it was at this point, but I talk about releasing my inner Sergio Aragonis. All right. I'm going to exaggerate her face. Maybe even more in this one. Make it look even more like this is the worst idea ever. It's probably a little too big. I almost want to have it like where these eyes are kind of like twitching. Yeah, talking about necks from before, Audrey's neck. I've when I go back and look at like older stories, which I don't do super often, but every once in a while. But when I go back and look at older stories, and I just drew the necks a lot longer. Like with Dad, even if I had like a bushy beard like this, I would still have this like neck coming out here to meet the shirt, which means if you shaved his beard, he would have like a small giraffe neck. And so I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't work. Yeah, look at other people's art, like other cartoonists. I mean, even ones I respect, and they'll have stuff like that. It's just kind of part of developing style and stuff like that. But it's something that I don't know, for whatever reason it doesn't look right to me. So like I'm always working on it. And then, maybe at some point I won't like these necks. And I'm drawing. Let's get a background layer. I like to do backgrounds in blue. I do the foregrounds in red. Usually. There are exceptions. Sometimes if I've got all sorts of crap going on in a certain panel or whatever, I'll have all sorts of different penciling layers just so I can move things around to get it right. So I think I'm trying to, yeah. I'm trying to decide if I want to show the door. Yeah, so we'll show the door right there. And then the rest of this is kind of rocky. Some sort of mountain. Again, I'm never too concerned in my stories about like showing every moment up to a story. The characters just kind of pop in there. I mean, sometimes they're like right in the middle of the story anyway. Okay, so I want. I'm gonna try a weird angle for this, and we'll see how successful I am. I might move that let's go. I am gonna move it for now. And that means I need to fix this part that wasn't showing. Let's center that lettering a little more. Okay. Yeah, I want to be able to show this door more. So this is kind of at a worm's eye view. I don't know if I can pull this off. But I'm going to try. So we've got the door like that. And then he's saying, let's go. And he's going to be grabbing her by the hand. So this is going to be an instance where I'm probably going to have a couple layers for the characters. So I can, because I'm probably not going to get the sizes right. And I'm going to start off with, because this is such a weird kind of angle for me. I'm definitely starting off with just some simple shapes. That is not what I meant to do. What I want is this arm. Because he's going to be grabbing Audrey. He's going to be grabbing Audrey's hand. So if that arm's there. That means yeah, this is the stuff that's kind of hard to talk over. And I knew it would be. But this is the stuff that really involves brain power to a point. At least for me. Again, this whole experiment, this stream of consciousness concept is really designed to um, get me out of a comfort zone. Mm. And I like I like challenges. And I work the best when I'm well, sometimes I work the best. I work the best when I'm coming up with different challenges and stuff like that for myself. Um, and a lot of what I've been doing lately has been coming from challenges. Last year in October, uh, instead of doing Inktober, which I've done before, I I decided to put out a comic page every weekday. And so I wrote I think it's 21 pages, 21, 22 pages. Let me think. Yeah, 21-page story called The Egg, which is available on my Etsy shop. I'm actually starting to run pretty low on them. Um, so I wrote this 21-page story, and I was like, well, I'm going to put a page out every single weekday of October instead of doing what everybody else is doing in October. Call it Promptober, but which is Inktober. And the big challenge for me in doing that, which it's a considerable amount of work in itself, but at the time I was working two jobs in uh, from October to November. I generally take on another job helping a friend of mine on the weekends. And last year when I did it, I worked all of October without a day off. Um, I think I ended up taking 2 or 3 days off until I was done with that. Um, and one of those was because I actually got sick on a weekend, and I really think it was exhaustion more than anything. I think it had just set in because I was just going. I was going nonstop. Um, and I think that was like first or second week in November. All of a sudden, I woke up and I could barely talk. I felt like shit. Anyway, I'm not doing that this year. I am going to work the job, but I'm taking another day off of my other uh, my other full time gig. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna do these 21 pages in a month in the busiest time of my year, where I'm going nonstop. I've got no break whatsoever, and I did it. And and so that was it was a real informative challenge, and um, for a couple of reasons. One, just seeing what I could do if I really had to. And two, it really informed um, my art and what I've been doing lately, because I took that. That's when I started using just one clip studio brush to do all the artwork. I just use the real G pen for the vast majority of everything, just to cut down on thought. It's okay. This is the only brush I've got. And yeah, so that challenge was real informative because I've continued to just use that brush um, for all the stories I've done this year. And then that led to January, where I started putting out these 10-page stories, and I did 45, 43. It's I got the last story done at like 2 or 3 in the morning on February 1st. Like I remember that. So if you want to count that, I did 45 pages in January. If not, it's probably closer to 43. I think I did 2 pages after midnight. Still a huge amount of work. And then I did like, I don't know, 28 pages and fuck, did something. I did like 28 pages in February. And I did a good amount in March too. So it's been real productive year. I'm trying to figure out how to get the perspective right on this foot. Because Audrey's being pulled. And let's see. Here's her waist. Let's see, the leg would be going like that, which means a foot. Be going like this. But I have noticed after doing those challenges from the beginning of the year, I don't want to say I start getting bored, but it is I just get these moments where I'm like, all right, now I need to switch something. I need to switch something up again. And so that's part of what I'm doing. I really don't know if I like that foot. And let's see, that's gonna go there. You know what? I think I'm gonna leave it for now and might mess around with it more when I get to the inking part. I already knew that I knew that this that third panel was going to be the hard one. Bleed panels like this can be a little tricky. Well, they're not. I won't say they're tricky. They're a little tricky when it comes to like really having to think about what is this is going to look like on the printed page. So if you see all these lines on here, uh, this line, if you can see that right here, like that's where the actual like original quote unquote art stops. Everything past that is essentially um, not going to be seen when printed, and really it goes closer to this line here. That's not going to be seen. That's why we have this green line, which this is the safe. That's the safe area. So all important stuff, dialogue, characters, everything needs to be in that. So when I've got an open panel like this, I really got to think about like not go too crazy on those outside parts because they're not even going to be seen. And they will when I post them online. I just post them in full for the most part. Um, but the main deal is print, at least for me. Even though the vast majority of people read my stuff online. And I'm trying to figure out how to do, because it is obviously it's super dark in whatever they're going into. So when I ink this, we'll probably have more quote unquote white lines there. I don't even know if we'll see the characters. Let's see. Mm. So if I ink them, it's going to be really small. Right there. Okay, cool. Let's go back to this background one. I'm just going to put some lines and shit to give me a little bit of idea what this is going to look like. And in print, so this is page 3. If you look over this kind of left area, you can see the how the pages fall. So this is going to be, the next page will be on a page turn. So if I want to put anything kind of surprising or whatever, that'll most likely be where it goes. Again, going back to challenges, that's part of the big challenge of doing this on a stream by stream basis without any plan is I still wanted to read all right. But I do think this is going to be I think my my shit's weird already. I've gotten that before. And I go for weird. I don't deny that there's no denying that my stories are weird, my work is weird. I like it that way. Um, I think it's hard to kind of claim that for yourself. Um, like I get that people can find it weird and stuff like that, but also to me it comes the way I tell stories and what I do it's also like really natural. to me. Um, but I've gotten reviews of my work where they've called it weird, and not in a bad way. Um, but I find that really really satisfying. Actually, it's really satisfying to hear someone call it weird, because that is what I'm going for. Uh, and anyway, I think this story is gonna. I wanna embrace the weirdness, just like full on embrace the weirdness for this story. So what I'm drawing right now is some sort of creature. I don't wanna. I mean, there's a few ways I can go with this. I want it to look rather humanoid. I don't want to give away a whole bunch, and that's also part of the funny part is I don't even know what I'm giving away, because I have some ideas what this might be, but I'm not 100%. I'm still trying to think about some dialogue for that, and it might not need any. It might not need any. One thing this page will not have, I've been putting page numbers on the other two pages so far, and I'm not gonna do it on this one because it would be like right here, and that's not gonna work. All right, let's start inking. And that dialogue at the end that I'm on the fence about. Where? Oh, I see what I did. I switched to I was on my True Grit brushes, not my inking brushes. All right, let's go to real G pen. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah, that dialogue for that last panel, that might be something I don't add in today. Maybe I add it in tomorrow or a few days from now. I did go back and work a little bit on page 2 after the stream. There were a few things I realized I forgot to do. I've been adding in some fade, which was that brush I accidentally clicked on. Oh yeah, that makes it look like she's got some twitchiness going on. But I've been adding in some ink fade on large areas of black. Because I want this to look kind of like a rundown zine. Like printed on a crappy photocopier. Something funny is happening in my bedroom because my wife is laughing her ass off. Mm. Yeah, but I want the overall look of this to be um, kind of remind me of like old old zines and stuff like that. And my plan is that hopefully we can wrap this story up here in the next few weeks, and then I can compile it into a book for Queen City Zine Fest, which is coming up at the end of September. And I'll probably it'll it'll uh, it'll be it'll be something if everything goes according to plan. It'll be something that I send off to Best Value Copy. That hair looks awful. It'll be something that I send off to Best Value Copy because they have really good black and white prices. And then I'll compile the books myself. And for whatever reason, that looks a little better. I've had this idea of doing this really big black and white book that just feels thick. And normally I use like all sorts of different like paper stocks, and like I'll usually do a real thick cover. Like if you've seen all of my collections of the web comics recently, like the Wizard Staff and Doppelganger Dilemma and stuff like that, I've used these really nice matte coated covers, and all the interiors are like on this really nice glossy paper. Everything's full color. But the problem is when you're doing stuff like that, it just jacks the prices up, which is fine because I think quality is important. But I want to put something out there that's like really big and I can sell for like a really reasonable price. And so I'm thinking I've just wanted to do this like just old school, like the cover stock's the same and it's just on cheap paper and everything's black and white and I can sell it for like, $5-6 or something like that, but it's like 40 some pages long. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about, although I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I kind of go back on the cover stock because I get picky. But I think even if I do, it's going to be something like I might do like just like a thin, glossy kind of laser paper or something like that. So it's still going to be. I'm going to try and go for as cheap as possible. But we'll see. That's a few weeks away. We're going to see how this keeps going. All right. So now I mentioned before I wanted to put a effect here in the back called gloom. Oh, you know what? I just passed it. And let's pass it again. All right. That's under stream in Clip Studio. And there we go. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna put it under the ink. So well, it's really, no, it's not the only one, but it's one of the very few canned effects in Clip Studio that I'll use. They've got a ton of them. I mean, they've got speed lines and stuff like that that you can use. And I like to draw my own speed lines. I'll use different rulers and stuff so I know it's all going the right way. Um, but I mean, I don't usually use the canned stuff. But Gloom, I like. I think it looks natural enough. I'll probably add some lines in here though. But what I need to do is go onto this layer and I need to rasterize it because I need to erase. I need to erase all of these lines here. So let's get the eraser tool out. I mentioned yesterday that I switch. You'll see me kind of cutting into like black areas and stuff like that with my brush with the real G pen. You can see it switching between right there. But I've also got a button toggled for just a big ass eraser that I've got. For instances like this where I want to erase big spots but still be somewhat precise. Let's see how that panel looks. Yeah, I like that. That works. All right, panel 2. I'll be honest, I am dreading panel 3. It just looks like it's gonna be super frustrating. I'm gonna try. I think my trick is gonna be as get as cartoony as possible. It's not, as long as it somewhat reads, it'll be good. I read an interview with the front man for King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard this week, and I gotta be honest. I've known about the band for a long time. I love weird music. Ween is one of my favorite bands of all time. They're super weird, and but I just seen so much about them, and I was like, I've got to check them out. I think what stopped me is they're just so. I mean, they've been around for like 10 years, and they have 26 albums out. And there's something a little daunting about taking that on, and like where do I even start? And anyway, this week I took the plunge. I was like I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start listening to them. And anyway, when I get into something, I'm always researching them and reading interviews and all sorts of stuff. And so I was reading an interview with the front man. I think his name's Stu McKenzie. And he was talking about their output, and how he doesn't worry about everything being perfect. He just keeps going, and he knows the recordings and stuff like that are just, they're just going to be what they are. It doesn't bug him if the song's not perfect and the recording's not perfect and stuff like that, which I totally get. Um, I was in a band for a long time. I still plunk around every once in a while, but we haven't played in any sort of capacity in years and years. We did some reunion shows back in, I don't even remember, 2018 or 17. And we always talk about doing something again, and we never do because we're all busy and we're old. But anyway, I totally get it. That I don't know. I was a perfectionist when I came to that stuff, and I wasn't a perfectionist. It really, as long as it sounded pretty decent, I was good. It didn't have to be super perfect, but there were certain sounds that I would get really picky about. But anyway, reading that interview with him, was also really inspiring for me this week. Um, and my comic making, and looking at their output of like 26 albums in such a short amount of time, having years where they put like 5 albums out. And again, just kind of leading me to really push, again, to challenge myself with comics, and let's see what we can do. I've been way too quiet this summer, and so I'm trying to get back into it. And actually getting into a new band and getting into listening to these songs and stuff like that, which I love. So I just started listening to one of the King Gizzard albums Monday, and that is all I've been listening to. And I just started listening to a second one this morning. I had to run to the grocery store, and I love it so far. Um, but that's the it's been real inspiring for art making, even though it has nothing to do with comics. Which comics inspire me for sure. When I see people's work that really excites me, it makes me want to do something, either in a similar vein, or I just want to, just goes, ooh, I could do that, and I want to do it too. Um, but other forms of media excite me just as much. I love movies. So like any sort of visual media is going to get me excited. So here's some of that cutting in to the black that I was talking about. I'm going to keep these lines for this cliff fairly abstract so they don't take away too much from the characters in the foreground. Also, these are going to have pretty big screen tone on top of them, so I might have to thicken up some of the lines, but we'll see how that looks once we throw the screen tone on there. I'm going to take these other layers off. I don't really need them for doing this. I want to be able to see a little more what I'm doing. I'm trying to put a little bit of perspective on this cliff. It doesn't have to be super crazy. But how I'm doing that, just off on the fly, is see these stones and cracks and stuff like that. They're a little wider, and then as we go, I'm making them skinnier and skinnier. As if the wall is moving away from us. Which I think it's kind of working. It's good enough. Right, just like I said about that interview, it doesn't have to be perfect. So let's just see how much shit we can do in a small amount of time. Alright, let's put a balloon tail. Ah, son of a... Still had it on the balloon, not the tail. Alright, that's good. I don't think I'm not gonna put a balloon tail on this top one. And here's the panel I've been dreading. Let's just do it, Ryan. Let's get it over with. I'm really having to move my Cintiq around. Got a kitten screaming outside. So some people, when they're trying to draw different angles and they're working digitally, they'll move the canvas on the screen and the actual physical Cintiq or whatever tablet they're working on, it stays stationary, stays the same. I have the Cintiq on this. It's called the Ergo stand. which Wacom put out with this line of Cintiqs. And I can pretty much get the screen into any position, and I mean, just what comes supernatural, what comes naturally to me is just moving the screen around, in as I'm going. I've never really liked using uh, the canvas move tool. And so I just move the screen in real life. Um, let's turn these off. Black that in. Set the wrong button. Let's see. Let's move. It's always kind of challenging when you've got two characters interacting like this. Making it look right. Alright, so this is the part I'm really kind of worried about. Making it read right. Which is this foot coming out in space. I've done stuff like this before. It's definitely not my comfort zone. And that's what this is all about, right? Always have Audrey wearing Chuck Taylor type shoes. So I'm gonna get real messy here with the shoestrings and stuff. That just helps. That just helps me hide stuff. Helps me hide stuff in the drawings. All right. I hope that reads. All right, let's get Dad going here. Yeah, that head shape looks about right. this back 3/4 angle for a head, such a challenge. And I swear to God, I put it into almost every story I've done in the past few years. But because of that, I think I've gotten pretty good at it. I think that sleeve might look a little too big. There we go. Alright, so let's move this arm. Let's bend this a little bit. I'm actually getting into a weird angle just to draw this. I just got little fingers poking out that side, like it's like he's actually like squishing her hand. Like I said, I'm gonna try and get as cartoony as possible with this panel. I gotta think about this leg. Let's see, is it going like that? I don't think that's right. Let's get the back pockets on there. Sometimes doing the back pockets help me visualize this. So it's going like that, and then let's get his foot. Seams of the pants on there. I've also got to think about this whole door section. It's all gonna be black. Which is why I drew all of Dad's head. I didn't put those 3 little hairs on there that I normally do, because I'm gonna do that by cutting into the black. Alright, so we're gonna fill all that area. I need to make sure I've got all my lines closed. There's those 3 little hairs. That came. I didn't used to put those on Dad. And if I'm remembering correctly, I started doing that in that egg story as well. And it just kind of stuck. And but that's evolved also, because I going back and looking at the egg kind of recently, I noticed that they were more angled before, and now if he's just standing still, I draw them more like they're standing up. Um, this was not my intention, but I think it's kind of a ends up almost being an ode to Tintin and his hairstyle. I I've got some Tintin books. They are so dense, though. Um, I have a real appreciation for them. I kind of like what they've. It's almost more what they ended up spawning. Things like Indiana Jones and just adventure serials in general. Because I love I love adventure stuff. I love things where people go to far off places and deal with situations way beyond their means. I like stories with normal people in crazy situations. It's kind of my go-to. Um, it's not everybody's cup of tea. I referenced in yesterday's video where I kept saying "we" for things that I'm doing. I mentioned the royal "we" is what I meant, maybe. And there's a it's a reference to the royal "we" in the Big Lebowski. It's a line that the dude says, and it's my favorite movie of all time. I love Star Wars and horror movies, bunch of monster movies, old sci-fi movies, but I don't, but I could. I could watch The Big Lebowski every day, and I'd be okay with it. I just love a story like that where it's just this slacker dude who's caught up in this weird, crazy mystery, and I love that. I love it. Let's see. Let's bend that balloon even further. Yeah, I like the way that looks. It almost looks like that balloon tail is following them into that into the cave, which I guess is the point. Woo! Been going for almost an hour and a half. I'm actually surprised I got yesterday's page done faster. I still got this one. Oh, it was these angles. These angles. All right, let's figure out. this thing that's watching them, which I don't know what it is. I'm just gonna have fun drawing it though, opposed to everything else that I've been drawing, which has been miserable. Speaking of movies and Tintin, I'm not a huge fan of the Spielberg Tintin movie. I don't hate it. I do watch it occasionally. Um, I'm just not sure how successful it was, storytelling wise and everything. Um, it's okay. I think the big thing for me is like, does this make me feel? Does this feel like Tintin? And there were a lot of moments in that movie which did not feel like Tintin. Lots of like just these weird action moments and stuff like that. Which surely you're gonna, yeah, put the action in there. But um, it just felt weird. Um, but saw a post a couple of years ago or something like that. Saw a post online from Rich Tomaso's a great cartoonist. Um, he does a book called Black Phoenix. And also, if you've picked up any of the Carl Barks treasury editions, or collections from Fantagraphics, he does all the coloring for them, and he really captures that 40s to 60s look for the Duck comics. But anyway, he had mentioned if you wanted a real good Tintin movie that's not technically a Tintin movie, to check out That Man from Rio, which is a French movie, of course. And so I did. And actually, when I did, I think I realized I had at least seen parts of it at some point in my life. I think I was like, some of this seemed familiar from when I was a kid. It must have been on TV or something. Um, for some reason, I was getting memories of watching it at my grandparents' house in New Jersey, and they did not have cable. At least I don't remember them having cable. And so it had to have been on just regular TV. Probably some. It's probably a cheap syndication deal for them. And anyway, I think I had seen it, but I watched it a couple years ago after I saw that he had recommended it as an actual good uh, Tintin type movie, and it's not a Tintin movie, but it feels like it. And evidently, the director wanted to make one and just couldn't make that deal happen, so he made this instead. And it's great. It's great. It's full of adventure, and just it's fun and all globe trotting, and they just go all over the place. I watched it on uh, Tubi, and I watched it again not that long ago. So it should still be on there. But it is a lot of fun. I love it. Do you got to read subtitles? I'm sure there's dubbed versions out there. And no hate on anybody who watches dub stuff. I watch dubbed anime all the time. I saw a great video someone put on TikTok about maybe I've got to do this and I've got to do this, but I got to watch anime and I can't just watch subtitles. And it's totally true. I've got a friend who he used to give me shit for watching dubbed foreign language stuff. And then I would give him shit about being super arrogant about it. it's not a big deal. I don't know what you're proving to anybody. Although I will admit that, like, now when I'm watching, I've been trying to learn Japanese for the past I think 4 years now, and so I will watch just subtitled Japanese stuff now, just to practice my Japanese, see if I can pick stuff up, which I kind of can. After 4 years, I feel like I'm still at a, I don't know, maybe I'm at a kindergarten to first grade level in Japanese. Again, I like challenges. This is all, it goes back to this project and my comic making and stuff like that. I like to challenge myself. The problem is once I do something and I succeed at that challenge, I get bored and I don't want to do it anymore. And then I gotta figure out another challenge to keep me interested. Unfortunately, I've done that in my working life too. For better or worse. And in the career I had, where I was in management for a long time, not anymore because it's awful. But I was, and I would never take my own advice. And some of my own advice was, at least in that industry, to get bored and stay bored. If you were bored, that meant everything was going great. The problem is, I wouldn't take my own advice, and then I would take new positions, and that was always added with more and more stress. As I'm looking at some of these marks I'm making for this cliff, it looks more like I'm drawing a rock wall. Than a cliff. Again, doesn't matter because we don't know where this is going. And really, that I might be able to, put that into the story later on. I've got a few ideas for where this is going. I want to keep these lines pretty sketchy for this. Again, it's kind of the same idea as that second panel, where I want the main focus to be on this creature here, which and I'm going to be laying down some screen tones on this cliff as well, so that creature is going to stick out even more. I wasn't expecting to draw all these wart looking things on him, but I did, because this is a stream of consciousness. The more I look at this panel, though, the more I'm thinking I'm not going to add dialogue to it. I'm going to play that by ear, though. It might be something where something happens on the next page and I go, oh yeah, I need to address that, and we address it on this one. Because this is such a weird way to write a story and do a project, I can't, I don't feel like I can hold myself to just go, okay, well that's done and that's it, and so I can't change it. Surely I'm going to have to come in and change a few things here and there. My hope is that eventually I can get some people watching along, either if it's during the stream or during the YouTube videos, because I'm putting this up on the YouTube channel, which is Comics in the Making. If you want to check that out, I've got the first 2 videos up. But I'd love people to suggest things and as we go. And I'm trying to do these pretty regularly. I don't want to say, hey, I'm going to do this every single day, because I do other stuff also. But I want it to be, maybe a little collaborative. I've joked around with some people when I feel like I don't have any ideas and I'm bouncing stuff off, ideas off of friends and going, well, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm just kind of talking it out, and they start giving me suggestions. Oh, I gotta stretch. They start giving me suggestions, and what's funny is I almost never take their suggestion, but hearing what they say makes me go, wow, that's terrible. It'd be way better if we did this. And so I will do something completely different. But it still helps to hear what they said, so I can hear their terrible idea. Charles Schultz, he used to say, people would come up to him all the time and go, "This is what you should do," in Peanuts, and he would say, and he would just stop him. He would stop him and go, "I've got one thing I'm good at, and I really don't want to hear your idea." I'll generally listen to someone's idea, especially when I'm actually asking for it, of course. Um, but I tend to agree with Sparky, Charles Schultz's nickname. Um, One common thing that happens when you're a artist, and I don't know if this is more regulated to comics or whatever, but it happens to me all the time. Not all the time, but common enough where I'll tell somebody that I write and draw comics, and they immediately tell me what I should do. They immediately go, "You know what you should do a comic about? You should do a comic about dogs, but the dogs are superheroes." And they solve mysteries. And that's actually pretty close to a suggestion I got before. And in that case, I did give them the Charles Schultz response. And I said, but you know what you should do? You should make that comic. You should make that comic about superhero dogs that solve mysteries. Alright, let's make this brush bigger for covering this screen tone brush that I'm using. I've mentioned it, and I think every stream, but it is from True Grit Texture Supply. I like using it more. I like using it more than the built-in Clip Studio screen tones, which they're fine. They're perfectly good screen tones. They're just they're too involved. They're too involved for me, and I get frustrated, and I stop using them. And I don't have to worry about that with these True Grit texture supplies. I can jump right in and use them. Let's see. I need to. So I'm doing the backs of the cliff. I was using with a 20%. This 20% brush. The pants are. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that I used them on his shirt. Pants I used a 10% brush. Woo! Oh man, that's like right there. I don't know if it'll show up the same on screen, but man, that's like Morade all over the place. It should be good in print. I've used this. I've used this brush before, and it showed up fine in print. Oh, those might be famous last words. Uh, Watch me get it back from the printer whenever that happens, and it just be a hot fucking mess. My biggest concern, of course, was that third panel because it's such a pain already. But that 10% tone next to the 20% tone. So let's. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna. I just thickened up. Just thickened up the line. Around there. Yeah, I think that's good. I am actually pretty happy with this page. Sorry, just reflecting on my work. Alright, let's drop this ink fader into here. Actually, let me cut off this panel. Yeah, if I end up printing this through Best Value Copy, um, which I've worked through them several times. Um, in general, their print quality is great, uh, and so there's no way I would get these pages back with these ink fades and stuff like that. So I've got to manufacture them myself. Wait, let's let's get back on the inking layer. All right, cool. So we're gonna leave it there. We are gonna leave it there. I might mess around a little bit more with this off a stream, but I think for the most part, this is good. So I'm gonna stop the stream there, and thanks for checking it out if you did, or the video later on. And tune in next time where I'm gonna I'm gonna tackle page 4. I have to think about that for the rest of the day, um, and see where we want to go. And all right, till then, I'll see you next time.